Oh my goodness. Julee Higley, it has taken us way too long to make this happen, but I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yay. And we are both very tired, everyone, because we both have puppies. Although
Brand
rumor has it your puppy is a little bit better than mine, but that's okay. We still love our puppies.
new. Yes, yes.
And
We
by
did.
rumor have it, I mean, you told me that she sleeps and mine
Yeah,
doesn't. Oh, wait, you have a he.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He
It's
sleeps great. I don't know
fine.
how we got so lucky.
I don't know either, but it's fine. I'm not bitter at all. I'm just kidding. Listen, there's going to be a day where we will both be sleeping and it'll be fine. So
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah. It
Um,
might be when we're dead, but that's okay.
that's okay. There will be time for sleep at some
Yes,
point.
yes.
Okay, really quick though, can you introduce yourself? Because people don't know. Well,
Yeah,
some people know who you are, but not everyone knows who you are.
yeah. I'm Julie Higley. 31 years old. I'm a foster mama, soon to be adoptive mama,
Hey.
and I know, very excited. I'm a new dog mom, as we just said. I like to tell people I'm in my dog mom era,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I never thought would happen, by the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a working mom.
Yeah. Okay.
um, I don't know what else.
That's perfect. And you're
That's
married.
it.
You do
I
have a
am
husband.
married.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's pretty great.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So also what I know about you is that you are very creative. Oh, your puppy is gonna talk to us too. I love that for us. So
I'm
that's fun.
sorry.
No, I
I
love that.
gotta.
I
Okay,
love it.
good.
Um, so you're very creative. You've made candles, you've dabbled in a little of this, a little of that. But your latest adventure, tell us about that.
Yes. So I love doing charcuterie. So I recently
Yum.
have started kind of a little business on the side where I do party charcuterie for people.
Mhm.
And I've done a lot of baby showers, a lot of, oh my gosh, I might need to deal with him.
Oh, I can't even
uh,
hear. What's he
oh,
doing?
good. Oh, good. He's freaking out.
Oh no.
It's okay. Nathan should be home any minute.
Okay. Well, I can
Okay.
always like here, we'll just pause for a sec. I can always edit out barking.
Okay.
If kind of, but I didn't hear that. So
Okay, good. I'll just
you're
keep
good.
going through it.
Yeah, yeah. So here, let's just start that over. I'll just say,
Sorry. Yeah.
no, you're good because that's the beauty of editing. So just start the answer again of like, tell me about your latest adventure.
Yeah. So recently I just started doing charcuterie for people, and I do a lot of like baby showers. I've done some like bridal showers, um, girls' nights, whatever people
Fun.
need it for. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a ton of fun. I just honestly love um helping people. That's like
Hmm.
my passion. And so
Yeah.
when I can take that off of somebody's plate and be able to like, because food for a party is kind of hard.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a big stressor whenever I throw a party.
Hmm.
And so it's nice to be able to take that off of somebody's plate and make it look beautiful and delicious and fun for people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been
Shoot.
doing that.
And I feel like charcuterie is one of those that it's like truly artwork, but
Yeah,
also like serving people.
right. And I struggled for a while, like I feel like everybody does, just thinking I wasn't good enough
Yeah.
to do it, especially like seeing some of the huge professionals making a
Yeah.
living off of this.
Yeah.
And I really had to like, I don't know, take a step back. And one, I have an amazing friend who has photographed a lot of my work,
Hmm.
and seeing my work like photographed that beautifully, I'm like, oh wow, like it
I am
actually
good at
does look
this.
nice. Like I
Yeah.
am good at this, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, just kind of having to I don't know, talk myself into believing that I'm
Yeah.
actually good enough to do this.
And your friend Melissa Pemberton saying, you need to charge a heck of a lot more than what you think you like. What are
I
you
know,
doing,
right?
Julie? You
I
are worth
know.
more than that. I
Yeah.
know.
And then
It's hard
being
though.
able to like take a no when people are like, oh, that's out of my price range.
Yeah.
And like, I just have to accept that it's
That's
not for
okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
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 So, okay, where can people find you then?
Oh, yeah. I have an Instagram page called
Okay.
Spokane Charcuterie.
Okay.
And you can find me there. You can DM me for, I am working on a website that will be up and running very soon. But for
Okay.
now, you can DM me.
Okay.
And then once the website is done, it'll be linked
It'll
on
be
my
on your,
Instagram
okay.
page. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we are recording this in August, but this
Oh, yeah.
won't come out until November. So there could be a website by November.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully there will be.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So that's just like fun. I like to just, hear the fun things that people are doing.
Yeah.
So, but now let's like totally do a 180 and talk about why did you and Nathan decide to foster?
Oh, yeah. This actually involves like you and your family a
Oh
lot,
no.
which is
Just kidding.
crazy. I know. So Nathan and we had a baby really young. He was 18, I was 22. It was a big part of our story.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married 2 years later. And um, I don't know. I personally have always wanted to foster. It's
Mm-hmm.
always been, I remember when I was younger, um, whenever there's like a big lottery jackpot, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everybody just kind of like starts daydreaming of what they would do if they would win the money. Well,
Mm-hmm.
my mom and I would sit down and talk about it. And we would talk about like adopting children and like how many children we'd be able to help if we had that money, right? And it was just this really fun thing that we would do.
Yeah.
And just kind of talk about that dream. And then so it's always been a dream of
Yeah.
mine. And then when Nathan and I got married, one day we were sitting in church, and at the time we went to, am I allowed to say where we went?
It's totally up to you.
Okay, so we went to
Yep.
Summit
Mm-hmm.
at that time, and one of our pastors was John Pemberton, and I don't even know if he was a pastor at the time.
Yeah.
So that's your husband, in case you
Yeah.
didn't know.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. I don't even know if he was pastor at the time, but he was speaking, and he was speaking on the foster care system because he worked very closely in that. And I'm explaining to you like you don't know.
No, you're good. Because you're talking to the people. You're talking to the
Right.
people. You're good.
Talking to the people. Yeah, and he gave this just incredible talk on foster care, and he talked about a little girl that had to sleep on the floor of his office because they didn't have a place to put her. And Nathan and I, we came out of there like, wow, that was powerful. And that was the first time we shared that we had both always seen ourselves fostering and adopting, that it was just something that we had always planned on.
Yeah.
Separately, which was really cool to see that like we were aligned on that without even talking about it ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
So we both agreed that at that time in our life, we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were freshly married. We were very young. We just were not prepared at that time. My mom was also really sick. And then Nathan joined the Marines shortly after. And so my mom passed away in 2017. And then a month after she passed away, Nathan left for boot camp.
Oh, geez.
Marines. Yeah, it was a really insane time. Just kind of, and also my little brother went with Nathan. They both went together to boot camp.
Okay.
So like take it from Maggie, that's my daughter, her perspective. She lost her grandma, who was her primary caregiver while I was working. She lost her dad, which she doesn't understand that he's just going away and he'll come back, because she couldn't even talk to him.
Yeah.
Right. And she's very little. and then her uncle, my brother,
Mm-hmm.
all in one fell swoop. They're gone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for her, it was definitely hard. Hard for me as well, but at least I was an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that wasn't the time for us,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
knew we knew that. So we, after he came back, we had a lot. He had a lot of healing to do. That I mean, the military is very crazy, and what it
Mm-hmm.
does to our young men and women is
Yeah.
still a little bit traumatizing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he had healing to do. I had healing to do. We had healing to do together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when okay, so I'm trying to figure out my timeline here. We moved to Cheney, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when we were coming to launch a church with your husband and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And because that was, again, we were in church, and your husband gave a beautiful speech
He's
about,
so motivational.
right, he really is,
Yeah.
about launching a church in Cheney. And Nathan and I once again were like, wow, we need to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So we like picked up and moved to Cheney. We originally weren't going to move. We were just going to like commute.
Mm-hmm.
But then that week when we had kind of decided, oh, we'll just commute, I had like 5 different people not directly speaking to me, but talk about how you should always live in the community that you serve.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just insane that like I was hearing this message everywhere, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like I can't ignore this. Like
Yeah.
we need to live there. So we just kind of picked up and moved to
Yeah.
Cheney, found a rental, and we're still here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so then we launched this church. Things were going excellent. We had built this new community. It was beautiful. And then COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like, just derailed everything and
Everything.
everyone.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But we kind of took it as an opportunity. We were like, hey, things have calmed down in our lives, forcefully, like
Yeah.
not by choice. But this feels like a really great time to get this paperwork and training done to get licensed.
Yeah.
Um, and so like we have more free time than we've ever had. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So we did, and we like started the process, and it was really crazy because we kind of, about a month before we got officially licensed, we kind of got the call from you saying like, hey, I have these twins that really need a
Mm-hmm.
place to go. They're with somebody now, and they're stable, but that person can't be a permanent option, so they're looking to move them. Would you guys be interested? And I was like, whoa, twins, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we definitely weren't planning on taking 2, but we talked about it. We're like, yeah, like let's do this. And then on so it was November 12th. Is that right? Yeah, November 12th, which was the day that my mom had passed away in
Mm-hmm.
2017. I was at her gravesite, like visiting, and I got the text message from you saying you're officially a licensed foster parent,
Mm-hmm.
which was just crazy. And so
Yeah.
I just burst into tears, and it was really exciting, and just it felt like something that my whole life I'd been dreaming of
Yeah.
had finally come to fruition. So
Mm-hmm.
that
With your
was really
mom right
cool.
there.
Yeah, with my mom right
Mm-hmm.
there, which was
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, so that's how we became foster parents.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
we'll get into more of the story with the twins, but
Hmm.
did you, so going back a little bit, did you always want to adopt through foster care, or just was adoption part of that whole thing, or was it really more about foster care and adoption ended up coming with it?
Yeah, I think that we as a society have a really skewed vision of what foster care is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I had that same vision growing up,
Okay. Okay.
that foster care was taking kids from parents that were unfit and
Yeah.
adopting them,
Yeah.
right? And I know that that sounds kind of selfish, but that is the view that a lot of people
A
hold,
lot of people.
and
Yeah.
a lot, and that is the view that I, as a young person, held as well.
Hmm.
And so I do think going into it, my vision was adoption,
Sure. Yeah.
and that quickly changed when I started learning and I started training and researching and seeing, oh, that's actually not the heart behind foster care, and
Hmm.
that's not what we should be striving for.
Hmm.
Um, and so originally, yes, I
Hmm.
wanted to adopt. And then going into it, I wasn't opposed to adoption, if
Hmm.
that's where it led us. But
But that wasn't your end goal at the time.
right,
Hmm.
right. So it changed very quickly
Yeah.
to, okay, no, we're actually not going to go into this with the end goal of adoption. We're going to go into this with the end goal of healing families
Yeah.
and bringing them back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
I really want like more people to see foster care like that,
Hmm.
and to know that like not not all of these parents and families like it shouldn't be reunited, you know.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that that was how my outlook changed, and I really
Hmm.
hope that we can get more people to start seeing it that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the twins then, as much as you want to
Yeah.
share, because it's their story, not,
Yes.
so however much you want to share from your perspective of, so it's been 3 years then since they've been with you, almost 3 years.
Almost 3. They've been in care for over 3.
Okay.
Um,
And
yeah.
when this airs in November, when we drop this in November, hopefully adoption will be finalized and that chapter of foster care will be closed. But we know like the journey still, we're still
Right.
going on that journey. But so it's about 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It has been a wild 3 years.
Yeah.
So as I said before, we knew ahead of time that
Yeah.
we were going to take placement of them. And so as soon as we got licensed, we started weekend visits,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of give it a slower transition.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like remembering back, it foster care is the craziest thing, because you literally get these kids dropped off
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, here you go,
Yeah.
here's some kids, raise them. It's
Yeah.
like it it's insane, and you know nothing about them. I mean,
Yeah.
very little. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what helps them sleep at night, you don't
Yeah.
know like all these things that you know with your bio children, because you've been on the journey with them, you
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out with these kids because you
Yeah.
haven't been on the journey with them. And
They're
so
strangers. Like you
they
guys are
are
strangers to each other.
completely,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know nothing about what comforts them or
Mm-hmm.
what they like to eat or any of that. And when it's a little kid that can't communicate that to you, it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
So we got these little kids, and it was really crazy how quickly they connected to us. And I know some of that is just just trauma,
Yeah.
and not knowing, but some of it was more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this beautiful thing where they they just immediately felt like they were home, and
Mm-hmm.
you could see it. um and it was I mean, they had a really amazing foster mom before us, um and even then they still just took
Yeah.
to us immediately, like they
Mm-hmm.
knew this was going to be a long-term place for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really cool. And they, oh gosh, they were just so little and cute, and then
Mm-hmm.
like these little kids, and then they also had this like just awful dark side to them that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to emote, like
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what was going on, or and it was so sad to see.
Mm-hmm.
um and so you're kind of like walking this line of trying to help them, you know, and it was just a whole new experience,
Yeah.
craziness. And then they officially got moved into our home like 2 days before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew they were going to be there. So we had Christmas all ready for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that knows me knows that like I do holidays big,
Yeah.
like so big. I get that from like my mom and my
Yeah.
grandma before her. Like I do holidays big. And so we had this elaborate, huge Christmas plan with so many gifts. It was during COVID, so it was less people than it would normally be,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still crazy. And they were so overwhelmed,
Mm.
like so overwhelmed. And I
In a hard
realized,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they were not handling it. And I
Yeah.
realized that really quickly, like, oh, we did too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we went too hard, too fast.
Yeah.
And so we had to like kind of pivot and pump the brakes and be like,
Yeah.
okay, how can we like do this slower and
Yeah.
like, go at their pace instead of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And we just learned so much in that first year of having them on
Mm.
like, we learned about ourselves and like what triggers us.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about them, what triggers them,
Mm-hmm.
and just all these different things. And it was like this beautiful year of learning and growing, but also probably one of the ugliest years of my life. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was,
Really hard.
oh yeah, I was pushed to the like limit every day, like physically, emotionally, just
Mm-hmm.
everything. It was really wild. Yeah. And so we, oh, and we all got super sick the first week we had them, like this
Yeah.
horrible tummy bug, and we
Yeah.
were just out, and it was
Gosh,
just,
I remember that. Oh
yeah, it was
man.
wild.
So bad.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. So we we made it through,
Yeah.
but it was a really wild ride, and
Yeah.
just so much growth, so much learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And services, lots of services,
Oh yeah.
navigating um new diagnosis, navigating like is I'm kind of like asking, like, is that
Yeah.
was that all in there too?
Yeah. And I had never, oh gosh, I'd never been in that world before, the
Yeah.
world of OT and PT and all of this. Nathan had as a small child, but he had never been on this side of it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the, so it was all new to me. And I think uh, went, I probably went too slow getting
Mm-hmm.
into all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that other people would have, I don't know, maybe more support to see the signs earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was kind of like still in that honeymoon phase where I was like, no, they're fine. They don't
Mm-hmm.
need services kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to understand that every kid in foster care is coming from trauma, no
Yeah.
matter what, no matter how smooth their transition is, no matter what, even babies that have
Yeah.
never been with bio parents still are coming from
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah.
Um, and that does something to you, that does something to your body. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's it, there's a lot to like kind of look out for, and there's a lot that you can do to help,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't quite understand right away, so it took
Yeah.
me a while to kind of learn that. So we got into services eventually,
Mm-hmm.
but we went pretty slow on that. And once we did start, wow, the difference was
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
I looked forward to OT every week
Yeah.
because I learned so much from those
Mm-hmm.
therapists. Like
Mm-hmm.
every week, I was somewhere where I could express, like, hey, these are the behaviors I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how can I help with that?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do? What can I do to help them?
Feel
Um,
better.
yeah, feel better,
Yeah.
work through this, right?
Yeah.
I remember our first OT session, because at first we only took one of the twins. And I remember saying, because they asked what your goals were, and I was like, I just want them to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
they don't seem like they have a lot of joy, and I
Mhm.
really just want them to have some joy, right?
Yeah.
And that was literally my first goal in OT,
Mhm.
was to just help me make my kid happy.
Yeah.
And it was insane, but we got there. Like, we
Yeah.
actually got there pretty quickly too,
Yeah.
because I was getting tools to help. And I used a lot of those tools for myself.
Yeah. I
Like,
know, right?
I right, I was able to realize, oh, they're not regulating, but also I'm not
I'm not. Yeah.
regulating. Like, I I actually need this as much as they do, and that was so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just this like life changer. Like, wow, I can do things about this. And recognizing that it wasn't actually all them, it wasn't all on them.
Mhm.
Which I know that you talk about this a ton, like
Mm.
how it it doesn't just, it's not just your kids' behavior you're trying to change, right?
Mhm.
It's your reaction to their behavior.
Mhm.
And that's like,
That's where it
and that was,
starts.
yeah, that's where it
Mhm.
starts. And that was huge for me because I did, and it's also not how I grew up,
Yeah.
like,
I
you do
don't
what
think
your
many
parents
of
say,
us grew
they
up
say
that
it,
way.
right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of gets ingrained in us. And then when we become parents, we like have this mentality, like, it's my turn. Like, you're gonna
Yeah.
listen to me. It's my turn to be the one in charge, right? And having to relearn that and rewire that to be like, no, actually, I want to get along with you. I want you to have a voice. I want to raise you
Yeah.
with a voice.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to raise you the same way I was raised,
Mhm.
right? Even though I love my parents and they were amazing, I still don't want to raise my kids the same way. So,
Yeah, and I feel like it takes a conscious choice to say that out loud and be like, no, actually, I don't need to be the one that has all the power. I don't need to say, do what I
yeah,
said, be quiet, all the things that you're to be seen and not heard, all the things that we were
right.
raised with in that time. But our parents also, that's what they knew. So it's not like our
Yeah,
parents were intentionally raising us to
right,
feel like we didn't have a voice. It was like that's what they knew. And there wasn't a lot of research yet about what we know now,
right,
So
right.
um
But like admitting, okay, now the research is there.
yep.
So we need to, take those steps, like,
Yeah.
to change. We can't
Yeah.
just keep going down that same path. Yeah.
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 So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time that this comes out in November, which is why we're doing this interview,
I
is
know.
because I want you to be part of National Adoption Month. That's what all of the interviews are going to be about adoptive parents. So we're speaking it
Yes.
into the universe. This is going to
Right.
happen. Um, how did we get here? How did we get to adoption with the twins?
Oh my gosh. With like what, blood, sweat, and tears?
Yeah.
It's Oh, it's so wild. And so back to kind of what I talked about earlier, how, we went into foster care with this vision of reuniting families
Hmm.
and helping them heal. Um, I I have such a heart for people. Like, I always have. It's my, like I want to help people. I need to help people, right?
Hmm.
And so I went into this so excited. Like, I am going to be best friends with my bio parent. Like, I am going to be the person that texts them encouragements and is just so loving towards them. And I really wanted that.
Hmm.
And then it I got
The
a case
opposite.
where that wasn't a
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are unsafe people.
Hmm.
And I didn't want that. Like, I
Hmm.
wanted, like, so many moms in foster care deserve to have their kids back. So
Hmm.
many moms deserve to have, reunification and healing. And not that this mom didn't deserve that. That's
Hmm.
not what I'm saying. um, it just wasn't a possibility, not
Hmm.
at this time, right?
Hmm.
And being friends with her wasn't a possibility.
Hmm.
And that was really hard for me to take.
Hmm.
And I felt like I was failing my
Hmm.
kids by not having a relationship with her.
Hmm.
And so that was really painful.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. She put us through a lot.
Hmm.
Um, we went through a lot. We went through investigations. We went through
Hmm.
just so much pushback on everything, every request.
And
It was,
would you agree it's because she was in survival herself,
oh, absolutely.
fighting for,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
And not knowing, just not even, she never got the support that she deserved.
yeah, yeah.
Growing up, anything, it's just, it's very, very sad. And I want the absolute best for her. I want healing for her.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't be the one to
Mm-hmm.
do that.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
pulling myself out of that and realizing like, hey, I'm going to be the best I can be for these kids
Yeah.
because that's what they need.
Yeah.
I cannot be her
Yeah.
savior right now. Like that's not something I can do for her.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. And I felt, I battled with that for a long time. Like, could I have done more? Could I have, but it really was a question of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I really did have to keep my family safe.
Yeah.
And so I did have to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
And that was hard, but
yeah.
we've done a really good job of keeping them connected with other family.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And they
that
still
will
get
continue even after
Oh,
adoption.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we are great friends with their bio siblings and an aunt and some of their really close family. And we love that. We love that we do holidays together. It's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did we get here? Wow, it was such a long road. Yeah, lots of patience, lots of therapies, lots of they had a very involved bio parent for a very long time. So we did mass amounts of visits, mass amounts, more than when I tell people how many, they're always shocked. Like it was a lot. And so our lives were revolving around absolutely, like we couldn't plan anything. They had 4 days a week where they were gone for, if you include daycare, they were gone
all day,
more than they were home. Like we saw them for maybe 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do you build a lasting relationship with a kid when they see all these other people more than they ever see you?
Yeah.
And that was really hard. And there was like times when I was like, man, do we need to quit our job? Like one of us, like, this is crazy. I feel like we can't be a good parent for them. But that wasn't an option either, just financially.
Yeah. But
And
that's
so
the reality that a lot of foster and adoptive families go through is like, one of us needs to quit our job to be able to make this happen. But sometimes you can't. So
and I mean, kids need so much anyways. They need just so much of their parents. And then foster kids come with so much more appointments and needs and just so much. And, as a foster parent, you want to give it all to them. You want to be everything for them. And that's hard. So there's like a lot of sacrifice that you have to make. And a lot of times, like just prioritizing, like, okay, what are the things we're going to have to just let go of because we can't control it. Right. So that was big. I know I started therapy during all of this. Absolutely recommend. If you're a foster parent and you're not in therapy, you need to be.
Run.
Like there is so much happening that you need to process with somebody.
That's outside of it.
That's outside of it. Yeah. And that you can talk freely too, and that somebody that you can literally be like, hey, I don't really like my kids very much. Because that was a reality for me. Like it took a long time for me to see myself as their forever mom. And in the beginning, I was like, you can't say that. That's so shameful. Like you can't talk about that. Like their kids, like,
but you can.
Oh, you can. And I've gotten to the place where I'm like, no, that's real. That's a real feeling. And like, you don't just get this attachment in a day. Like it takes time and it takes work. And yeah. And so it took a long time for me to get
Yeah.
attached to my kids. But anyways, back to therapy.
Yeah.
I started therapy during all of this, and it was incredible. It was somewhere where I could break down all of the things we were going through and be able to, be raw and real and vulnerable. And she had such good advice for everything. And yeah, so I had a point for that, but basically therapy is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So adoption happens. I mean, we're speaking
Yes.
this into the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Adoption happens. And like what are your expectations of what's going to happen once adoption happens?
Yeah. Um, I don't I don't know that much will change. Um, we we have had no visits or anything for
For
a
a while.
while now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we've kind of grown into this calm, this feeling of, oh, this is our normal, this is our family, right? And so in that sense, not a lot is going to change. Um, and I think that that's almost the point, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not this big, oh, now they're mine. No, like we're still growing, we're still learning,
Yeah.
we're still continuing therapies, we're still, this is going to be a lifelong path.
Yeah.
um and yes, I'm excited for adoption because I don't have to wake up every day worried that they're going to be moved out of my home, right? That's like a real fear that foster parents have constantly. Like
Yeah.
when you do grow attached to these kids and you have poured your life into them and then they get moved, and that's a heartbreak. And so that is like a constant fear of foster parents. Um, Even though, yes, most of the time those moves are for the best, right?
It
That's not
doesn't
to say
negate.
it's not
Yeah. It
hard. Yeah,
doesn't negate the big feelings that we have
right.
because we're human people that care about.
Absolutely. And it is
Yeah.
heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I'm excited for adoption because I don't have to have that constant worry. Um, and but also it doesn't change anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't change the feelings, it doesn't change the growth. Like
Yeah. And it's
we're
just another
continuing
day.
on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 I mean, we are having name changes
Okay.
on paper.
Okay.
And that's just for safety reasons. But
Yeah.
like that, I mean, we're not changing what we call them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've talked to them a lot about that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and just kind of being open and honest and
Mm-hmm.
keeping them involved in the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still really young, but they understand more
Yeah.
than
Totally.
we give them credit for.
Yeah. What do you wish that you and Nathan would have known before you took your first placement?
Oh my gosh. We talk about this all the time. There's literally so much.
Mm.
We felt like we were prepared, and we
Yeah.
were not.
And you weren't.
Like
Yeah.
we were not prepared. Um, I think that I know everybody says this, but community is not just important; it is vital.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that when like me and the kids got COVID while Nathan was, gone for military, like the fact that we had you and all these people that just came and showered us with meals and games for the kids and snacks, and like I would not have made it those 2 weeks of quarantine without that. Like that, it is absolutely vital to have a community. And if you don't have a community where you can call them up and be like, hey, I need you to come over now, you need to work on that
Before. Mm-hmm.
because it's vital. I
Mm-hmm.
had so many moments where I had to call my friends just bawling and be like, I actually really need somebody right now. Like,
Yeah.
and they came over with snacks in tow. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have that community, because this is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. Like,
Yeah.
it's so important and so beautiful and so rewarding and life giving, but it is the hardest thing you will
Yeah.
ever do. Like it is,
Which
it's
is
wild.
why it makes sense that half of the foster parents quit within the first year.
Yep.
Like that's the
50%.
statistic. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and so I'm curious from your perspective, like, how do you think that can change?
Yeah.
What can happen so that that isn't a thing?
I've talked about this so much. It's like a huge passion of mine. I would love to be able to see that number go down. Like we, and to be honest, if we weren't still in the middle of a case, I can't say that we wouldn't have been one of those 50%
Mm-hmm.
because it is so
Mm-hmm.
insanely hard. Also, we were licensed during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and that made everything harder
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of services that are normally there, support groups, things like that,
Yeah.
weren't.
They were gone. Yeah.
They were gone, and a lot of them haven't come back,
Right.
which is really, really
Yep.
sad.
Yep.
And so I think that, oh gosh, is such a loaded question because it's
I
such a
know.
broken, broken world.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think support, just support groups,
Mm-hmm.
community education around
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
understanding. Like, um, I was discussing this with some friends the other day, like telling them how hard all of this
Mm-hmm.
was and like all the hard things that we've gone through. And my friend just looked at me and was like, why are you still doing
Yeah.
this? Like,
Yeah.
why do you like, because we want to continue fostering after
Mm-hmm.
this case.
Yeah.
And they were like, why would you do that? Right? Like that doesn't sound fun at all. And I didn't have an answer for her right away. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't actually know. Like maybe we're gluttons for pain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But going back and like thinking about it, I was like, this foster care is so ugly and hard and broken. And it's that hard and ugly and broken for the kids too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kids that don't have, grown up experience to be able to deal with this
Mm-hmm.
or handle all of that hard and pain. And we're adults that can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's broken. Yes, it's awful. But we can help these kids that don't deserve this. They didn't ask for this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going through just as much hard and pain, if not more. We can help them with our grown up feelings and emotions to be able to walk them through this, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer for me. Like
Yeah.
I would much rather take that pain on and walk that path than make those kids do it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what I came back to on like why.
Yeah.
The why
Yeah.
we want to keep going. And I don't know if that answered your question.
No, you're good. You were just saying like community education, these are things
Yes.
that potentially could help reduce
Oh,
the
right.
amount of people that quit in the first year.
Yeah.
So I think just playing the devil's advocate, the state would say, "Oh, we have support groups, we have education. Okay, check. Now what? What else do you need?" Like,
Right.
what do you say to that? Because I know what I
Yeah.
feel, but what do you say to that?
Yeah. I think that the hardest thing that I have experienced, the thing that has made me want to quit more than anything else, is my relationships with the social workers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's hard, and I know that their job is an impossible job. It's so, I don't want to be where they're at. But I do really think that we need to work on being a team.
Yeah.
I have rarely felt like I could go to my social worker for those resources.
Mm-hmm.
I've rarely felt like I could, call them up and be like, "Hey, do you have a support group for me?"
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt like my social worker was even on my team or even
Yeah.
felt like they respected me.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of that stems from reunification is the goal of
Yeah.
foster care.
Yeah.
And so a foster parent in a lot of social workers' eyes is
Doesn't
just
matter. Yeah.
the vessel to get there, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not a person that needs to be. But at the same time, I think they need to realize that this is an impossible job for us as well. Like the hardest thing, and they cannot do their job without us.
Yeah.
They cannot. If they do not have foster parents, they cannot do their job. And so one of their goals should definitely be lowering that 50%, right? Like we don't want that many foster parents quitting because we need them. So I think better relationships with social workers would be a huge thing, because people aren't going to get those resources if they don't feel like they can ask for them.
So maybe better training for social workers.
Absolutely. I don't even feel like some of my social workers are trauma informed by some of the things that they have said.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that.
Do you know how trauma works on the body?
Yeah. Okay. Here is whoever's listening. This is Julie and I's petition to the state. Like, please bring more trauma awareness to your social workers.
Absolutely. That'd be so helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to bash social workers. They are amazing and what they do is amazing. But we need to all do better. As a team.
Well, and it's kind of like what I was saying about our parents. Like they didn't know, so they were doing the best they could with what they had. And if social workers don't know about trauma awareness and what trauma looks like in the kids that are in our homes, then they can't know to do better. It's not their fault. So like somebody needs to help them figure this out so that we can all do better.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just looked at the clock and we're at the end of our time already. Julie,
that's crazy.
I could talk to you all day.
Have me on again.
I know. I feel like I say that.
I have so much more to say.
I do have 2 more questions for you though.
Okay.
So, okay. So what do you wish more people asked about when it comes to foster care and adoption? Like people who are maybe like your friends who are like, why are you doing this? What do you wish more people would ask?
Oh, how can I support you? Or when can I babysit for you?
Yeah.
That's my favorite. It's really hard to find babysitters that can handle, trauma. And so that's a huge thing. Like just being supported. Like if you don't want to get into the foster care world, if you don't want to be a foster parent, that's fine. It's not for everybody, but you can help a foster parent. Everybody can do something.
Yep.
And like these kids in our community, it's all of our responsibility. Like
they're our kids.
They're our kids. They're our community. All of us have a responsibility to make sure that they have homes and that they're taken care of. And so one, how can I support you? Right? Like, what can I do? How can I get involved? And then I want people to just kind of ask about the hard. Like, I think if you know the hard parts, you can be more prepared. I don't know if it's like, I'm sure knowing the hard will scare some people away. And that's probably good. Like, because you need to be able to handle it. But it's not easy. It's very hard. And so ask about that hard. Ask about, and just kind of be a safe space for foster parents to share that with. Because we don't always have somebody that we can be like, dude, this sucks. Like, this is so hard, right? And so be that person for somebody.
Without judgment.
Without judgment.
Okay. So then what would be 3 resources that you would recommend to and I'm going to say any family who is raising a kiddo from adversity. So what would be 3 resources?
You have to get trauma informed. You absolutely have to. So, there's so many books out there. There's The Body Keeps the Score, the Connected Child. There's so many books out there. Get trauma informed, right? Take a TBRI class, whatever you have to do, because it changes the way you see everything, the way you see parenting, the way you see your own trauma, right? It is wild and it is life-changing. You have to get trauma informed. Get into therapy. Like you should not become a foster parent until you have dealt with your own hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not to say that you have to be completely healed and you have to be in this perfect space, but you need to know how, and you need to know what your triggers are, and you need
Mm-hmm.
to know what you need to do when those hard moments happen, because
Yeah.
you can't be taking that out on your kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I wish I had prepared sooner,
Yeah.
rather than when I was in the thick of it, like, oh gosh, I'm at rock bottom. What do I do? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely do that
Okay.
ahead of time.
Okay.
And then resource. What has helped me? Oh, have other foster parents in your life.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
uh, I have so many times called up other foster mamas, like, hey, did you go through something like this? Can I talk about this? This is so hard.
Yeah.
Or even the good stuff. Other foster parents are going to understand you better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like my own family, my dad, my sister, I love talking to them. They don't understand like another
Yeah.
foster parent does, right? Like they
Yeah.
just don't, because they haven't been through it. They haven't lived
Yeah.
through it. And it's a whole different world.
Yeah. Yeah. So that community that maybe is like-minded and in that space where you can just be raw and
Mm-hmm.
speak your
Absolutely.
heart. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Julie. I really had a great time talking to you, and
Thank
we'll
you.
have to do this again sometime. I feel
Yes.
like
Right.
I know that you really wanted to do this in person, and if it weren't for technology, darn technology, but air hug to you. If I
Oh,
saw you in
thank you.
person, I would give you a big hug.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for being
All
here.
right.
Okay.
Yes, it was great.
Thanks.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.